Oh, there.
Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for coming to the live stream this week, which is an intern takeover with Aleyda and I. And today we'll be talking about college and just demystifying the college experience. So, my name is Marcella, and I've been working with BayhaGroup since October. And I'm a sophomore in college right now, and I'm majoring in sociology. And I go to Georgetown University in Washington, D.C.
Nice. Okay, so I'm Aleyda Tobar. I'm a second year and I'm a public health sciences major, and I go to UC Irvine in California.
Do you want to, yeah, we can talk a little bit about like what we're doing right now and maybe how online school has been.
Yeah. So yeah, I also work with BayhaGroup, and with school, it tends to get a little unbalanced sometimes. So I think a lot of it's just really like you balancing your time, especially if you work like part time, full time, and you're a full time student. A lot of it gets just too much sometimes. So I think what I use is Google Calendar. Google Calendar really does help. I love it. It gives you timers. You can put exactly what you need. You can put exactly what time, like 5 minutes before, 10 minutes before, especially with like um like classes that are recorded. They tend to like sneak up on you when you least expect it. You're like, I have a class at this time, but with Google Calendar, it'll like directly let you know, and it's like awesome.
Yeah, kind of like what you were just talking about. I feel like the transition to virtual learning was just a different shift, and there was just different kinds of study tips that we had to learn and things like that. So actually this semester I'm taking school off just to work full time with Bea Group, which is everything virtual. And I did still enjoy online learning. Like there were a lot of good things that came out of it. Like for example, I was able to have the opportunity to work and try new things just because virtual learning kind of opened that door. But yeah, like you said, it's just very different. And I kind of wanted to try something different this semester. So I'm going to go back to school in the fall. But for now, I'm just working at home. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. But I think today we're just going to answer some questions that people might have. So this one from Emma. What were some positive aspects of virtual learning for your college experience?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is kind of like, so if you have a class at 12:30, your class is at 12:30 on your computer. So that's one of the positive things. Like you don't have to wake up ahead of time, make sure you catch the bus or get in your car on time. It's more accessible, I would say. Your lectures are sometimes recorded, so if you couldn't make it that day, you can watch it later on. Yeah, so I think in terms of accessibility for those that have computers and have a space to actually do your work, it's awesome. But like a lot of students who live with family, live with siblings, don't have their own room, like I didn't personally have a desk, so like having to come online, there's a lot of things that you need. Make sure you have your Wi-Fi. Make sure if it goes down during the time that you're supposed to be taking an exam, that would be very detrimental. But I think talking to like your school and seeing if you can get some kind of computer or even like a router closer to you or something, like I've seen a lot of people who've done that because that is one of the aspects that kind of is not accessible to all students exactly, even those who live internationally, like they're different time zones. So I think having to actually talk about what you're struggling with and letting your school know, letting your professor know, and seeing if they can work with you is something that's super important. But yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that because I think there's a lot of things you can do to try and make your online learning experience a little better. I mean, one great thing is just being able to wear sweatpants or a sweatshirt and just go to class like that. And going to office hours, things like that can become easier when all you need is a Zoom link. And I think that for me personally, the most positive part of shifting to virtual learning was just that I think it kind of shifted my perspective about college in general. And I think I just had this realization of how unexpected college can be, and taking a semester off was something I never even thought about before coming to college and didn't even think about until everything was virtual, but it ended up being something that I'm really enjoying doing, and I'm glad that I did that. And just kind of having that perspective shift and more realizing there's so many, just kind of opening my mind to there's so many different things you can do in college, and you should just try this and just take this chance and yeah, maybe do something that you wouldn't have thought of before, that there's opportunities to do things like that. And I think I've just been encouraged to just do kind of random things and try out new things just because of so much unpredictability. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely can see that, like, you can relate to things and, like, you take more time to yourself essentially, right? Like, you're able to, like, understand, "Oh, this is what I need to take care of myself," when you're not at school constantly thinking about school. But yeah.
Yeah. So Cassandra asks, how did you make connections with professors and your peers this past school year?
Oh, okay. So that's actually a pretty great question because what happened with me last quarter, I had to retake these tests, and so I had to get this Zoom link, and it was just a personal, like, me and the professor kind of thing, and I was pretty afraid. I was like, I've been to office hours, but when it's like face to face seems a little bit more daunting. But with this particular experience, we were just talking and we were going over my quiz, and she ended up like asking me personal questions, and I felt more than comfortable than like just letting it all out. So at the end of the conversation, she actually told me, oh, if you need a letter of recommendation, like just let me know. So it wasn't me asking her, it was like her letting me know that she's available to me when I needed her. So I thought that was awesome. Like, I would have never had that experience if I didn't go to that office hour, or if I didn't go and ask them. And I noticed that professors like love it when you talk about their research. Like, if you really talk and you know what you're talking about in terms of like exactly what they study, because they're essentially experts in that field. If you go in and you talk about what they love to talk about and what they love to do and why they're there, they will talk to you for hours. My meeting was supposed to be an hour, and I talked to her for 3 hours, like on Zoom. Her particular like research was like fetal alcohol syndrome, so we were talking a lot about that. And yeah, it was just a great conversation, and I'm getting a letter of recommendation out of that, so that was nice.
That's great. I totally agree with that, that just building those kinds of connections with professors and even other students with similar interests to you can end up like opening doors in the future that you might not have anticipated, like research or maybe to be a TA or something like that. You just never really know what kinds of experiences you can get out of that. And I definitely think that building relationships is one of the most important things to focus on in college. Just like you said, I think office hours is like super great because professors love to talk to students in office hours. And like my professor last semester would always be like, guys, I'm so lonely in office hours, come visit me, things like that. So I think it's always useful to like take advantage of those resources. And yeah, you just never know what will come out of it too. And I also think something I personally really like to do is when we have papers or essays, I would like to take my outline to office hours just to have a professor look at it. And for someone, I'm taking a lot more kind of humanities type classes, so I write more papers. And I think that's something that's super helpful because even if I feel pretty confident in my outline, it just never hurts to talk to the person who's going to be grading it, and just learn like what they have to think about it. And just maybe other things will come up, other types of conversations, like you said. Maybe you'll end up having a 3 hour long office hours. You just never know. So, yeah, I would definitely. And it can be harder in virtual when you feel like you're not able to have those conversations face to face, but at the same time, it you also can just, be there on Zoom. You don't have to physically go somewhere. So, I would say it's definitely still possible to make those connections, and then, we'll all return to campus eventually at some point. So, hopefully those connections that we make through Zoom, we'll be able to finally meet in person too.
Yeah, like the sometimes the office hours are like it's just one on one. So I think there's no kind of like, oh, this person is kind of taking the stage or anything like that. Just a simple conversation with the professor And yeah, it just kind of depends. I think I would go before like a midterm or a final, and they were really helpful. Like they see that you're putting in that work and you're actually going there and you want to do better. If you did poorly on the midterm and you're hoping to get another better grade on the final, they see that you're working hard and you're actually asking the questions. But yeah, I think office hours never hurts. But yeah. Okay, it
So,
says you have suggestions for improving virtual slash in-person learning at the college level.
there's lots of different things. I guess one piece of advice I would give is just to try and make the most of all of your academic experiences, take advantage of like the things around you. For example, if you're in like a cool city, just learning more about the city, like spending time there, want to do fun things, but also it's cool to learn more about the history of your city and like learn about the kinds of things that are going on there. I really enjoyed learning more about DC and things like that.
Yeah.
And also, I would say to take classes that interest you for sure. And even if you have core requirements or if you have to take a science class or a history class to try and make them interesting to you so that you can still really get the most out of those experiences, even if it's not exactly what you wanted to take, and just using those opportunities to still get a lot of value out of it.
Yeah, I was just laughing because I was like, yeah, I don't think there's too much history about Irvine. Who knows? There probably is, but DC obviously has history in it. But yeah, I think it was for me like exploring Orange County. I mean, it sounds kind of lame, but like I'm from LA, so I've kind of explored it and I live here, but I've never been to Orange County, believe it or not. Like I've never really spent too much time there besides like Disneyland. So like seeing like how it was over there, and obviously the beach isn't too bad, so that was really nice to go, like have it like right there whenever I wanted to go. And then just kind of exploring the cities around it. Like I really felt at home like in Santa Ana, so that's where I would do my grocery shopping, and it was like really nice to kind of explore outside of LA and see how other parts of California were. But I definitely agree with like kind of getting those networks, and that will really change your experience in college. At least it did for me, because it's like a whole different place. Like I've never moved out and this was the first time. It was short, but hopefully we'll get back. And it was great. You're out there for the first time, and trying to make those friends and connections with adults or other people or your peers. It was just really fun just to be like around a lot of people that kind of were going through the same thing and had no idea. That was something we were talking about earlier, how like it seems like everyone kind of knows what they're doing, but I feel like we're all just like as lost as everybody else. So like we're all equally lost and just kind of going through everything at the same time, essentially. Whether that is like getting a class or understanding what your major is going to be. It's all kind of just like all up in the air. But yeah, I think one of the important parts of like college is just like being open to those opportunities and networking, because it's essentially the time where like you can get away with like, I'm a student, that's what I do, I'm just a student. So if that's asking like someone in the your dream job, like, oh, how can you mentor me, can I shadow you, like getting those experiences because you are a student, I think taking advantage of that will really get you far. But yeah.
Do we recommend working while going to school, and is it overwhelming?
I think so for me it's kind of like I have to do it. So I have to work. I love working where I work. BayhaGroup is awesome. Um but just like in terms of funds, like I have to work and making sure that I'm able to keep up with my bills and my costs of living. Um it does get overwhelming. It in terms of like right now, how it's like virtual and everything, my work is virtual as well. that was a little like hard at times, but I know it's easier right now. So in the beginning, I was like around 6 months in school where when I had to work, and it just kind of depends. So it wasn't too overwhelming back then. I did most of my work online as well, and whenever I had to come back to Downey, like I would. But yeah, I think it's a lot about time management, like however much you're able to make set a schedule out for yourself or a routine and follow that every day, it'll really help you out.
I definitely agree, and I think that also kind of just points to organization as a whole, just being something that's really important, a very important skill to have when you come to college. And you were talking about earlier Google Calendar and just making sure you're staying really on top of your assignments and everything you have to take care of, I think is just so helpful. Like for me personally, I really like to have like a physical planner just because I like to write things out. So I think just also finding those things that work best for you. For example, if you know you work really well in the library, or maybe if you prefer to study in a more busy space, learning those kinds of habits that can help you be on top of your work and be organized, and finding the study habits that can help you stay on track, then I think that can make working and then going out and having time to relax, you can manage your time much better and have time for all of those things without having to pull any all-nighters, hopefully, if you're just better at organizing and learning what works for you.
Well, that's such a great question. How do you relieve stress as a college student? I think for me, it was like self-care. Like I I have not. I almost did, but where you were talking about an all-nighter, so where you just go the entire night without sleeping, like it just sleep really does like catch like your eyes slowly start closing. So I think self-care is super important. Just taking that time, like even to like I know a lot of people who like meditate and do yoga. For me, it was like just taking a walk, like taking a walk and not listening or even to listening to music, or just like hopefully getting my mind away from thinking about, oh, this is what I have to do in the next hour. Like for me, it was just trying to get away and just ignoring for at least an hour my responsibilities. But yeah, taking that time for people who like to take out their dog. Right now, I take out my dog whenever I'm stressed and I can't um, do the things that I need to do on time or something like that. Yeah, that's at least what I do.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I think that it's also a good opportunity to kind of get involved with school stuff, so I would really like going to sports games or whatever kind of events were happening on campus that day. Usually, if I would have some downtime, you can just kind of hear stuff going on and just kind of see what's going on campus that day. I think that's a great way to relieve stress, and I think for me personally, I also liked to just do things that maybe reminded me of home or were comforting in that way. So talking to family or friends or maybe getting food because I definitely missed the food in California, the Bay Area a lot. So like going out to get something really good to eat as a break from dining hall food was definitely another way to relieve stress. Like there's lots of things you can do just to, yeah, take care of yourself and help, and that helps with your when you have to do things for school too. When you're not as stressed, it just makes everything run more smoothly, I would say.
Yeah, it can definitely like overtake you. Do you have any advice for incoming college freshmen? Okay, that's such a loaded question. I think for me, yeah, going off of like self-care as well, like just make sure to keep up with yourself and kind of check up on yourself a little bit because school can overwhelm you and overtake your life. Essentially, like your entire life is school for 4 years or however many years. Um, but I think for freshmen, I think it's just kind of like um I think it's like just trying to get a feel of like what your situation is. If it is like, oh, I might think about changing my major, or I want to get out into more clubs and organizations, and just kind of like figuring out what your school has to offer. Because it can be very overwhelming when you first get there and everyone's like telling you, join this organization, take this class. It's like a lot. And then I imagine like being in DC, like even the environment of the city that you're in is overwhelming as well. But yeah, I think for just college freshmen, just get a feel of like where you're at. Try to not overwhelm yourself if that is like taking the minimum classes or seeing if like you can take an extra class or two and just try to like see how it is before you take too many things on and then you overwhelm yourself and it ends up hurting you at the end. But yeah.
Yeah, I think you do have to be careful not to overwhelm yourself if there's just you wanna be part of everything and try all these new things. It is important to make sure you're not overly stressed from those same things that you're supposed to be doing for enjoyment, but I still would say that my biggest piece of advice would just be to always kind of push yourself to do new things and try things that might be in your stretch zone or make you a little bit uncomfortable just because I feel like all good opportunities and great things that I've found in college usually were just from some kind of random opportunity or just random thing that I tried, or maybe people I met, or just from just randomly deciding to do something. So I think, I mean, if you're very open-minded and outgoing, I think you're really lucky going to college because I think that will serve you really well. You'll just find a lot of great things. And if you're not, just to try and push yourself to do those things anyways and just take advantage of any opportunities that jump out at you just because you really do never know how they might enhance your college experience or how they might open new doors. Yeah, and I guess one other thing I would say is you can look for like safe spaces or communities of people that you feel like you relate to, especially if you're going to like a predominantly white institution somewhere or maybe somewhere very far from home, something like that. I think those can also be another really great place to build a community and kind of create a support system for yourself. So I think there's just like a lot to explore and a lot of new things, and you should just always be open to trying them. Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess that would just be my biggest advice.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you with in terms of like kind of like that shock that you get. People say imposter syndrome or other things like it's just a different world that you're in that you're not used to. If you're usually in a place where you see a lot of people that look like you and have the same culture and speak the same language and you come into different areas where you're not used to it, but being open to those different cultures or having those spaces, like you said, going to organizations that you feel comfortable in. I will say it's kind of difficult to find, even like you were saying, the food that is like home food for you. It was difficult for me to find some of those things. And I think, yeah, I think being with a group of people that have those same values and those same um, outlooks on life is super important and it'll change the way your college experience is. But yeah, um, this one's- college decisions are coming soon. Do you have advice as how to face a rejection? Oh, that's tough.
Yeah, that's definitely a tough question, I think, and it is kind of a person to person type thing, but I think you do just have to kind of remind yourself that it's really not personal. It's not any type of comment about you or who you are, and try not to compare yourself too much to other people, and just know that sometimes college admissions are a bit random. You never really know, and to try and I mean, there's really not much you can do except just to remind yourself to brush those things off. And I would say to celebrate your like victories, or if you are accepted to somewhere, and not you don't have to overly downplay it because it's oh not a big deal, but then take the rejections like a big deal. I think you can celebrate those victories too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think everyone kind of takes it in their own different way. Um, it's really not a great feeling, right? To be rejected from anything. It's kind of disappointing, but I feel like in whatever way that you feel is necessary to share your emotions, that's the way that you're going to take it, and it's perfectly okay to feel the way that you're feeling. I think and I kept this in the back of my mind, like, okay, this is not the end of the world. Like, like we're in a pandemic. And it was just kind of like, I mean, it is what it is. Like you said, it's not personal, and it is disappointing to see. And I wish I would have gone in, but at this point, if there's nothing else you can do, because sometimes I have heard of people who will appeal it. But at this point, if there's nothing you can do, it's just like you got to take what it is. But it's not the end of the world. I feel like if you're accepted to anywhere else, look into those schools, see what they have to offer, and eventually you end up where you're supposed to be. I hear a lot of people saying that, like, you end up at the place that you were meant to be, and I feel like that's definitely true in my case. Like, um I'm at the place that I wanted to be, and I have so many experiences and opportunities ahead of me, and just taking advantage of those. But yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think just always coming to college with an open mind, you'll have a good experience and just kind of to expect the unexpected. But I hope that answered everyone's questions and hopefully demystified the college experience a little bit. So we will see everyone next week when June will be back next Thursday at 3 p.m. for our next live stream.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.